Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Horse Center with yours truly, Rich Who. And then we have the super Swiss Army Sean, and we're joined tonight by trainer Keri Brion. Keri, how are you this evening?
Good. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. So your business is a little bit more of the steeplechase business, right? That's where your primary work goes?
Yes, but I do train quite a few flat horses as well. I'm pretty much dual purpose. I do both.
So you're a dual threat. You're like the Michael Vick of let's use it. That's the 2023
Yeah.
current. You're the Jalen Hurts of horse racing.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, fantastic. So as far as the jumpers are concerned, that's what I call them. So when I go to a track or there's a card, you're typically out in New York, like Saratoga or Belmont, where you find most of the steeplechase races. When you're handicapping those races as a person who's going to bet on them, what should we be looking for from your perspective as a trainer?
That's a tough one. Well, I mean, I guess trainers are kind of the first thing, right? Like there's kind of the specific trainers you look for that you kind of know always have horses that are competitive at the top level at a place like Saratoga. But I think one of the big things in a place like Saratoga is experience. Experienced horses seem to do better around a place like Saratoga than maybe some of our hunt meets. It goes a lot faster. So you need horses with experience jumping, that type of thing, I would say. And a bit of flat speed too. I think some of the flat track horses that go from the flat and then go jumping do better out of the racetracks because they take out the last fence. So there's like a 1/2 to 5/8 of a mile run home from what is the last fence. So, the kind of slower, maybe hunt meet stamina type horses don't do as well around Saratoga, I would say.
So hunt meet for all of us steeplechase challenged. What does hunt meet mean relative to like a steeplechase race we might see at Saratoga?
Well, I think a lot of people did see Far Hills because it was broadcasted on Day at the Races. That would be a hunt meet where New Jersey, where our Grand National is. The hunt meets are just up and down hills, rolling hills. They're more stamina type testing tracks rather than the race tracks that are so tight and sharp and quick.
Okay, so our the wonderful Grandma Horse Racing, who sent us some great graphics. Thank you. I haven't had a chance to thank you, at least publicly. I know I've done it on the internet there, Grandma. Wants to know, how long does it take to make a jumper?
Really depends on the horse. I got a great horse off the flat track at the very, very beginning of October this year named Topic Changer. He actually ran in New York, and I think he won in Saratoga, broke his mane in Saratoga. We got him off the flat, and he ran and won over jumps in his first start 3 weeks later. He's probably the quickest one I've ever made to be like super successful right off the bat. He's 2 for 2 over jumps, and it took him 3 weeks to become a jumper. But some of them take longer. It just kind of depends on their attitude and how athletic they are.
So when you're looking at a flat horse, horses that run around in a circle, make left-hand turns like NASCAR. What are you looking for when you look at one, you say, you know what, that one might be able to make the transition?
Pedigree a little bit. Like you want things that want to run long. Long on the grass is great. I don't really mind if they run long on the dirt either, but they need to look like they run all day, obviously. I like athletic horses, so kind of one of the biggest misconceptions is that they need to be big. I don't really like them that big because I think big horses are clumsy for the most part, and they don't stay sound as well as not a tiny horse, but just a small, compact, athletic type of a horse. But I think every trainer has their own preference, but that would be mine. I like athletic types that are running long on the grass or dirt, with a bit of pedigree that kind of. There's some sires and whatnot that you look at that, make jumpers too. So
as far as training is concerned, what's the biggest difference between, say, training a horse that's going to run on a flat or a thoroughbred race versus a steeplechase race?
Not that different, actually. Like a lot of people, it's a big misconception that like these jumpers, I think people think I go out and gallop them like 5 miles a day. Like it's because racing has gotten so much quicker over jumps, with them taking out jumps and in general like that, the racing itself has gotten quicker. So you do need a horse with some speed. I mean, my jumpers work 5/8 or 3/4 of a mile on the Tapeta at Fair Hill, like my flat horses do. Maybe they go off a little bit slower. Like maybe we would start in 15s and finish up in 13s or 12s, depending on the horses, rather than going off in 13 or 12, you know, in comparison to the flat horses. But it's really not that different to the hurdle racing, to the flat racing. You know, I train my long distance turf horses the same way I train my jumpers for the most part. Maybe a 2-mile gallop here and there, but for the most part, they train the same way.
So you kind of train them together. They're not separate. They're not two different.
No, they're not at all. Like you know, like I'll train, you know, like I had the 2-year-old stake horse, Dandy Handyman, that ran up in New York with 2nd and 2 stakes. Like he would go out and train with the jumpers. It's not really that big of a difference.
Okay. And now before you got into training, you were a jockey as well. Talk about that experience.
I was a jockey for 4 years. Yeah, it was interesting. It was just something that was always on my bucket list to do. Never wanted to be champion jockey, was never going to be champion jockey, but I worked for Jonathan Shepard, obviously, for 11 years up to when I started training, and working for him got me on some really nice horses. And I also rode a really nice horse for a trainer named Jimmy Day as well, orchestra leader. I was lucky enough to ride at some of the biggest tracks and actually had my first winner at our biggest race meeting, which is Nashville, which is like our Breeders' Cup or Kentucky Derby. And I was lucky enough to ride my first winner there. So I had some really good moments as a jockey, but I always knew I wanted to train.
Was that your highlight of riding, that win there?
Yeah, I would probably say that. Winning my first race, I was jumped the last, and I was head and head with 5-time champion jockey Patty Young, and I was getting a lot of weight off of him, and I beat him to the line, and that was a pretty exciting day for Jonathan as well. So, and really good owners on a horse named Lunde Caro. So, yeah, that was probably that day was probably one of my favorites. That, and I won the feature race at Fair Hill Races when they were still going on a horse named All the Way Jose, who ended up being an Eclipse Award finalist. And that was for Rod Moorhead as the owner and Jonathan as the trainer. And now Rod is basically my biggest supporter as an owner. So pretty cool to have ridden winners for him, as well as now trained winners for him.
Now, when you got your first win as a jumper, you get the same tradition as the flats? You get treated with all the stuff in the...
Yes, I got annihilated. Yeah.
Annihilated. Oh.
Yeah.
A little more than that. So a question for you. When you're learning to be a jumper jockey, is that like the first time you're about to go up over a thing, over the hurdle, over the fence? Is there a little bit of apprehension, or do you kind of start small and then work your way up? Or it's just like, okay, straight, we're going to go for it over the deep end?
No, like I came up from a jumping, like I did show horses and stuff and everything. So I had that jumping background, but nothing really prepares you for the hurdles. It's just, you get on horses that know better than you do to start with. When you're like, the first horse I ever jumped over hurdles, I didn't even know what I was doing. Jonathan just told me, go down over the hurdles. But I was on a horse that had done it so many times and had run so much, they just take you. So you kind of learn from the horse. I learned just from the horses, riding good horses. You kind of learn what it's supposed to be like. And then when you're riding, younger, greener horses, once you have the experience, then you can help them along. But you go pretty fast. You don't really have too much time to think about it.
So when you're, so I would imagine there has to be a technique to it so that when you're going over it, in a sense, you're kind of taking your weight off the horse a little bit so that you don't mess up its balance.
Yeah, I mean, basically your job is to be a passenger and just to kind of sit there and be supportive to the horse. So you don't want to really get in their way one way or another. You're not really there to tell them to take off, and you're not really there to tell them not to take off. You're kind of just there. You want to sit, you want your balance to just be in the middle of the horse basically, and be there, kind of squeeze with your leg and just be there in their mouth, but not holding their mouth, just enough to kind of, whatever they do, basically give them confidence that you're there with them. But you're going so fast that that's all you can really do. You don't really have a chance to sit up there and be like, count your strides down to a fence. You just kind of are there as support and, you know, go with the horse. And if they make a mistake, you're just kind of there to hopefully on the other side, you know, kind of pick them back up and keep going. They say a loose horse never falls. So you kind of want them to almost feel like they're loose in the sense like you're not doing too much.
You're just there. Okay, we have a slew of comments and questions. Sean Nolan, a good friend of the show, says jumpers, flats, saddling, multiple entries for her friend Brittany at Colonial. This young lady can do it all. And then you get only 1 star, Sean. There should be 5, right? Harrison Young says, what's the ideal footing you are looking for with the jumpers and for the flat? Does that vary per horse? And does that play a factor where you choose to run your horses?
Ideal footing is Colonial Downs, Harrison. Obviously, for the jumpers especially, we would prefer to have some sort of cut in the ground. Like, we hate to run them over really firm, hard ground because you figure they're taking off, jumping over 3-foot obstacles and coming back down on it. So you prefer to have a cut in the ground. I would prefer it softer just because it slows everything down, which I think is necessary at times. You know, you don't have a horse just fly off on the front end and never get caught. It makes the racing over jumps a little bit fairer. As far as the flat goes, I mean, I think a nice turf course, just a nice cushion goes a long way. It can be more firm on the flat. Like, I had a sprinter that just loved the New York turf, you know, rock hard. And that's how that's how he wanted the turf. But, just kind of depends. But for the jumpers, definitely, if you can get a cut in the ground, that goes a long way.
Another from Grandma Horse Racing. Is it hard or limited in finding jockeys for your jumpers? Like, if you went to Irad and say, hey, I want you to jump for me, what would happen?
No, we could try it out. He rode a winner for me at Gulfstream the other day. I saw that. See what he wants to do, if he wants to ride that same horseback over jumps. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So our jockey colony is not very big. So I am very lucky. My stable jockey was champion jockey last year, and he's a little bit he's man-made himself and a bit made through Jonathan Shepard and myself. He worked for Jonathan when he was 14 and then came with me. He's just turned 19 now. So I kind of have the up and coming star in my barn, which is fabulous. He's a great rider, Parker Hendricks. And then I have Barry John Foley, Tom Garner, and Teddy Davies, who all kind of ride my spares, which I have a lot of because I'm lucky enough to have a big stable. But in general, the jockey colony is a problem in our sport. With smaller trainers, it's harder for them to get a rider because the bigger barns obviously kind of have their riders and have the people that'll ride their second string or third string. So the jockey colony is a bit of a problem in jump racing.
Well, you can count me out. I rode a horse one time. It wanted to jump. I wanted nothing to do with it. So, Tawana Wood, you've made big strides as a trainer building up clientele and wins. What do you attribute most to your success, and what sets you apart from other trainers? Now's your chance to really go after like your antagonist counterparts.
Well, I think what sets me apart is I've really tried to adopt a lot of things I learned from Jonathan as far as like letting horses be horses. So, I'm unique in the sense that all of my horses get turned out before they get ridden every morning for 30 to 45 minutes. They get to be horses. And I learned a lot from Jonathan in that aspect. And I think that's lost on a lot of people, most of the time, or they just can't. They're at a racetrack where they're stabled in a stall almost 24/7 and they don't have a choice. But I try very hard to eliminate that. So, I train that way. As far as getting owners and whatnot, my social media presence, I think, has, some people dislike it, some people like it, but I've literally gotten owners off of Twitter. Some of my bigger owners, I never met until we were standing in the winner's circle the first time. We met over Twitter and they sent me horses. So I like to credit my social media presence to really getting me going as well. And, I've created some syndicates, and my biggest thing now is I love being known as the good jumps trainer, but I want to be known equally as well on the flat as well.
One quick question, Sean, and then you said turned out, so it's a little bit of horse racing jargon. Can you explain what you mean by turning a horse out?
Right. So we have grass paddocks and round pens. So the round pens are little, round pens filled with sand. So the horses that maybe aren't quite mentally able to handle like a bigger grass paddock, they'll go out in the round pens. The ones that have pretty good brain, they go out in the grass paddocks, normally 2 at a time together. They play. But they get to go out, roll, buck, kick, the grass paddocks, they'll graze when the grass is actually green. And just, time to go out and just be a horse. And it's not all about, training and racing. They get a chance to just go out and enjoy themselves, which I think keeps their minds really well in themselves.
Yeah, I would say we all need that sort of time, right, Sean?
Exactly.
So, Keri, you brought up social media, and I've seen your social media for a while now. You grew up actually like an hour from me in Lancaster, PA.
Small world.
Yeah, small world. And I don't know, like, you're all over the world at such a young age. Like, talk about what's your schedule like?
Well, like on a normal day, it's not that crazy. Like I wake up at 4:30 and go to the barn at Fair Hill. Obviously, this year was my first year taking a couple horses to Gulfstream. To Palm Meadows to run a Gulfstream. I don't have a ton down there, just 3. And I have an assistant down there, Lily, who's fabulous. But I'll go down there once or twice a month just to kind of see how things are going. But she's got it under control. And then I do go to Ireland. I make it a kind of a yearly thing to go over Christmas time in Ireland. Some of my best friends are there who I also have a really good business relationship with, buying some of the best horses that I've ever and probably will ever have a chance to train. The Mean Queen, Baltimore Bucko, my grade 1 winners, they all came from the same place. So I have a fabulous relationship with them, and personal and business wise. So we spend Christmas together normally almost every year, and I go kind of my own horse shopping and I ride them all. So I'm normally there 4 to 5 weeks in December. And I have a couple fun things going on. I have a horse that's actually, there's still shares available in that is going to run in Ireland March 4th. So I'll be going over for that. And then he's going to come to America and come into my barn and start training to run here. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place, but I've been very lucky to get a lot of pretty cool opportunities. So,
and also, where does the horse racing come from? I mean, I'm sure Lancaster ain't much different than here. I talk about horse racing and people just give me a weird look.
I think people just give you a weird look in general, Sean.
Yeah, my parents were not at all horse racing or horses at all. I started taking lessons. My aunt got me lessons when I was like 5, riding ponies. So did like the show horses and the eventing a little bit growing up and loved horses. But it wasn't until my dad went down the road, believe it or not, I grew up surrounded by Amish, but
that is Lancaster.
Down the road, 2 minutes down the road was Silmar Farm of like Princess of Silmar fame and whatnot. Betsy and Ronnie Houghton and Bernie Houghton. And they actually gave me my first job when I was 10, scrubbing water buckets and cleaning halters and stuff like that. And they actually taught me how to gallop a racehorse. And I got into pony racing from there. And I worked for them from the time I was 10 till I was 18. And they actually are who I would credit getting me into racing in general was the Houghtons. And I took a little break and went away to college on a pole vaulting scholarship. And I didn't stay sound. I would not have been a very good racehorse. And that was when I actually transferred home, finished my degree at Westchester, and started working for Jonathan. And the rest is kind of history.
So you brought up the Mean Queen too. You won an Eclipse award last year.
Yeah, my first year of training. That was just the first year was just unbelievable. I mean, it went from, it's a long story that I won't bore you with, but when Jonathan retired, that was not planned. And I was in Ireland and it was COVID. I was in Ireland training horses for him and it was COVID, so I couldn't travel back and forth, and he retired out of nowhere, and owners were being told to get their horses out of the barn. And there was at one stage I thought I was going to lose everything. Like I was not going to have a chance to keep training at all. I wouldn't take it over. And kind of everything just fell into place how it was clearly meant to be. Ended up moving my very small string at the time of, I think, 6 horses to Fair Hill. My assistant at the time took care of that. And I was in Ireland, and that license got turned over to me because when Jonathan retired, he couldn't keep his license in Ireland going. So that's how I became the first trainer to train a hurdle winner and bumper, which is a flat race for money in the jumps world, winner in Ireland ever, first American trainer to do that. And then came back. The Mean Queen was the first hurdle winner, and then came back to America, and it was just mental. Like I won 4 of the 5 grade 1s, and she was the Eclipse Award winner. And yeah, how do you top that in the first year?
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mentioned that you're at Palm Meadows. I just came back from there last week. We went down there to visit. We're going to put a video out on that pretty shortly with Ken Sweezy, the trainer down there. I think it was barn number 4, if I remember correctly. I don't remember, but anyway, you had mentioned you have shares available. So if folks want to take a part and get shares, where would they go? And B, if you could send that information to Sean, we'll go ahead and post it up on Horse Racing Today.
Yeah, definitely. Well. I'd probably just give you my email. Would be the best thing, but I have very, very affordable shares. And when I say affordable, my whole thing was when I started making my own syndicates was I wanted people to have an opportunity that really would never afford a racehorse, have a chance to afford a racehorse, basically. And I was very proud of what I've done with a couple of the horses. I had a horse last year named Going Country who finished 2nd in a grade 1 at Saratoga to Snap Decision, who's the best horse in America over jumps right now with the Mean Queen out. And he has owners that own 1% of him, and like 1% was literally like, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think a $700 buy-in, and then they pay $30 a month. And they got to go to Saratoga and watch their horse run 2nd in a grade 1. Like that's something that, that's a very hard thing to have to do, So the horse that I currently have shares available in is another, I hope, very, very good horse. So it's kind of the same idea, trying to get people involved in a horse where it's affordable to them, but the horse itself wouldn't be a horse that most people would be able to afford on their own,
A grade 1 type. So,
Yeah.
So 1%, let's just say it's $700 again, keep that the same. So if it's running for a purse of say $75,000 and it wins, and you get 60% like in the flat horses too, is that the breakdown?
Exactly. And then if you own 1%, then you get 1% of that, So, it's pretty cut and dry, no added fees, nothing, nothing like that. I do 1 monthly fee. It covers everything, and, have a bit of fun and get to travel. I mean, the hidden gem of steeplechase racing is our race meets, not just Saratoga. Like our hunt meets are a big party. They're really fun to attend. I mean, obviously the big days, Nashville and Far Hills are fabulous, but even our smaller meets, Camden, in South Carolina, Middleburg in Virginia, the Virginia Gold Cup, also in Virginia, Great Meadow, those are fabulous meets that put on a great day of racing, and it's always a fabulous day out. So that's kind of the hidden gem of jump racing. And I've gotten a lot of people involved that never realized that until they've gone, and now, they love it. So that's a big thing too.
So when is Nashville? I'm just curious.
Nashville is May 13th.
May 13th. So if Horse Racing Today wanted to come down there with cameras and you show us around as our chaperone, would you be willing to do that?
Yes. And it would be fabulous for the sport and for everybody to see it, because Nashville is, in my opinion, our very best race meeting. They do just an amazing job on the day. It's a great day of racing, and it's premier racing. It's all the best horses. There's a filly and mare stake. There's the grade 1. There's the novice stakes. There's high level maiden races. There's everything. And it's a really, really great day of racing.
So we'll book it. We'll do it right now.
Okay.
I'm going to come down there in Nashville on May 13th, catch up with you, and we'll film everything and put it together and put together
we,
a nice
we
video.
go out a couple days. We leave with the horses normally the Tuesday or Wednesday before the races and get out there. We normally ship them overnight so they're not in the heat.
Mhm.
Normally, I think get out Wednesday morning. So we're out there from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and run Saturday.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we get all of that, and then we can go over to the Nashville night scene over there, I suppose, and
I
do
mean,
a little,
that's what
some
makes
square
it so
square
great.
dancing or whatever they do in Nashville.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's the best part is when you're celebrating, hopefully, winners.
Yeah, we got to get Sean over there because he still's got to do his TikTok dance. All right, so Harrison Young has another question. Do you think there'll be more push for flat owners to have a few jumpers for a second career opportunity for horses that don't carry the speed? How do you think the industry could help itself in that way?
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. So I've worked really hard. Obviously, the Wyckoffs have they've probably been the most recent people to join my stable. We kind of Jordan and I hit it off in Saratoga, and we have a couple horses now that are transitioning from flat to jumps and going back and forth. And Kirk as well. Actually, the John's call winner in Saratoga this year had come off the grass, but it was Girl Dad. He's in my barn now and he's going jumping. He's run once. He was third first time out, and he should be a pretty nice horse this spring. But it's huge, I think. And I think if more people can see it, I have two more owners in my barn. Steve Weston sent me a horse that had been running on the flat that he's going to let me make into a jumper. And I've had a few others come over. I think if people can see these horses, I mean, the biggest one, I guess, is probably Saul Kuman as well. He has 4 jumpers with me now. Seeing these horses, make the change and then be successful, get all their conditions back. Cause they might've won 5 races on the flat, but they're a maiden then, over jumps. So I'm hoping the more that flat owners see other flat owners doing it, that, we'll start getting phone calls and more will want to make the transition.
Absolutely. Find you on Twitter, right, Sean?
Right.
Yeah, find me on Twitter.
You said about the Mean Queen being out. Is that horse retired, or is that horse still going to
No, she had an injury. She had an injury last year, and kind of just little things kind of niggling at her, and she'll be back probably this summer. We're not going to push her. She probably won't be back this spring, but hopefully this summer or definitely this fall.
And another thing you got cool coming up, and I wish I would have saw this earlier, or we would have recorded this, is you have an open house coming up as well.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Yeah, Sunday the 19th.
So people can just come into your barn and check out how things work?
Yeah, I'm gonna, obviously, the unfortunate part is I can't really take a massive group of people out back to see all the great gallops that are at Fair Hill. There's a ton of grass gallops out the back of Fair Hill, and that's not really doable, but I'm going to show everybody the facilities, kind of point to where that is, go up to the track, see the track. We have the dirt track and the Tapeta track at Fair Hill, and then also go down and watch a couple jumpers school the hurdles. So just kind of see the ins and outs and have a look around the barn, and have some pretty nice horses in the barn. So pretty cool to see. Cross border with his mini donkey, and we have a few stars. So,
and you just got a horse today as well, too, right? That kind of traveled the world.
We had 6 actually that just traveled the world. Yeah, 5 Irish horses and 1 English horse. Yeah, the 5 Irish horses were purchases from my trip to Ireland over Christmas, and the English horse is for a great owner of mine that has horses in England and has had great success between England and America, bringing some of his English runners over to America. So this is just another one of those that are coming to have a new career over here.
Talk about that part of the game, and you always got the horse racing people that are against horse racing. Your love for horses, and how people don't understand that.
But I feel like it's a constant uphill fight, isn't it? I would talk till I'm blue in the face. I mean, training is a hard game, and it's 24/7. You never really stop, but you do it because you love the horses. And I mean, I love every single one of my horses. I go through the barn every day when everyone else is left with a bag of carrots. I mean, I would hate to see how much money I spent on carrots in a month, but yeah, like I grew up loving horses, and of course I love winning, and you love that aspect of it, but you grow to get very attached to these animals. And I did lose Baltimore Bucko, my first grade 1 winner at Belmont 2 years ago now. And, that still sits with me today, and I still miss him terribly. And not just because he was my grade 1 winner, he was my favorite horse. We feel that. We feel the loss. And even when a horse retires and we're lucky enough to be able to send it on to a third career, you're happy about it, but you still love your horses and you miss them. And no, I don't think you could do this game if you didn't love them. I mean, it's hard for sure.
Long hours for certain. I know I had to wake up early in the morning just to go film, and I was just yourself. Never mind dealing with the horses and all the staff and all that sort of stuff. Now, I have an idea. Maybe they do this already, but you know how sometimes at some tracks they have the jockeys run around the track? Do they ever have the jockeys do something similar for the jumpers? Maybe lower the fences a little bit and then have a race?
No, but that's a great idea. We should definitely get that going.
I agree. I think that would be fun. And maybe you can have some of maybe when I come down there and film, we can schedule one down there and you can have the guests run over and jump over the fences too. That would be hilarious. Starting with Sean.
No, I will not make the first one. I'm gonna need encouragement. I'm not just gonna do it.
Indeed. So and then Lloyd Green's asking, aren't there some retired thoroughbreds that continue a career in steeple racing? Yeah, I'd mentioned that you had some thoroughbred horses that made that transition.
Yeah, but and the one thing, and yeah, some of them make the transition, and that's the transition. But the other thing to really keep in mind is they can do both. Like, they can run over jumps and run on the flat. They don't, just because they go run over jumps doesn't mean their flat career is totally dead. Sometimes running them over jumps will spark their interest, and you can go back to the flat, or they're just good and can do both. But yeah, I have plenty that have either run through their conditions or weren't fabulous on the flat and now are above average jumpers. So it's a great outlet to have, no matter what they kind of do or are. You can bring them jumping, and it's not the end of their flat career. It can be the end of their flat career. It doesn't have to be. They get a whole new case of conditions, which is fabulous. So that's probably the biggest thing, having that. You could get a horse like Cross Border, who's won $1 million on the flat, and he's still a maiden over jumps. So
that's okay, Lloyd. We all come in at different times. It's and folks come in at different times, so it doesn't hurt to reiterate important points. Absolutely. Any final thoughts, my man Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're not doing horses, when you're not traveling the world, do you have any time for anything else? What else do you do?
Diehard Eagles fan. So
that's right. I did see that. I wanted to bring.
She is from Lancaster.
So yeah, right now I've been a little busy. Yeah, because my sister lives in Center. We have season tickets, so we've been at the last two playoff games, and my sister lives in Center City, Philadelphia. So we will be watching the Super Bowl from her house, and hopefully I will be climbing a lamppost after the game.
And flipping cars. You're going to be a part of that crowd down there. I know our friend from the show too, Jared. He's a New York Giants fan. He went down there. He said some of the folks from Philadelphia were putting some beer on him. Were you part of that beer crowd? Because if so, we want to thank you.
Yeah. You don't want to come into Philadelphia with a different team's jersey on. It's just, you're asking for it.
Indeed, for sure. So Harrison Young is agitating you a little bit here with the Go Chiefs thing. I think that I think the Eagles' offensive line is too good, and that's what's going to control the game.
I grew up only an hour away from you, but the Eagles are number 32 on my list. I'm a Jets fan. I hate the Eagles, so it just
I
can't stand.
He admits that in public. Can you believe that?
You know what?
I can't stand. God, I actually feel bad for you.
I know it happens in every city, but I can't stand everybody who's become an Eagles fan the last few weeks and they haven't watched all year.
I wouldn't. Same. My mother was a diehard Eagles fan. So when we were growing up, she passed away of cancer 5 or 6 years ago now. But when we were growing up, I wanted to be a Colts fan when I was like 5 because it was a horseshoe and I liked horses. And my mom was like, absolutely not. Like, you will be disowned out of this house. Like, it's not an option. I was like, right. Okay. So, like, I was an Eagles fan from the time I was 5 years old. So, this is exciting. I'm a Philadelphia fan. So, Sixers, Phillies, Flyers. But probably
indeed.
football would be my favorite.
Yeah, I grew up not too far from there in the Poconos. We used to go down to Philadelphia to the Spectrum way back in those days.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And watch Rick Tocchet and Ron Hextall was the goalie. So they had a pretty good team back then. They played. We went down there to the Spectrum to watch them when they were in the Stanley Cup Finals play against the Edmonton Oilers with Phil Coffey and I can't remember, Wayne Gretzky and what was the other guy's name that played for the Rangers? I can't remember. That's how old I am, though. Way back.
Yeah, I was gonna say Rich is really dating himself. I was like 5 years old with all those names.
Indeed, you were. All right, Sean. Anything else, my friend?
No, that's it. Appreciate Keri coming on. Glad to get to talk to you. And yeah, we'll do what we can with videos. That'd be great.
Yeah, you definitely should come to Nashville, though. If there's a race meeting to be at, that is the one.
Well, it's not definite. It's absolute. We'll be there. So we'll go ahead and coordinate that all after we hang up here. But we'll definitely be down there and record all the good stuff, the fun stuff before the tailgating. We'll go to you'll kind of tell us what to look for, and then we'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great day.
All right. Well, we do appreciate your time. Look forward to get together in Nashville. A little square dancing and a little steeplechase racing, and that'll be a lot of fun. Until then, nothing but success, continued success for you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All righty, Mr. Sean, you got the big head again. Those are always fun to learn something new, right? Entertaining, good people who love the sport and have a good story to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew, she's got a little bit different than what we usually bring on as far as training. So it was a little bit more new to us as well.
It's unfortunate she's an Eagles fan, but what can I say as a Cowboys fan?
Yeah, well, and I wanted to actually bring that up. I'm glad she brought that up. I wanted to bring that up. I saw she's been at the games and stuff. Yeah.
Be a lot of fun for her come Sunday, I'm sure. The Super Bowl is always fun. So speaking of which, we're going to have a show on Friday night where we go through the Super Bowl. We're going to do a couple. I mean, there's only a couple of different things we can bet, but we're going to have a mandatory. So I'm putting you on notice now, Sean. A mandatory. You got a mandatory prop bet. Not like Miles Sanders is going to run for 50 yards. Like
heads.
It's going to land on heads. It's going to land on tails. We're going to sing that sort of thing. So you're gonna have to give us a reason why as well.
Okay. Yeah, no, I won't go heads, tails. That's crazy that people bet on that. But
50-50 and you get less than $50, right? Yeah. In any case. I have a couple in mind that I think I might go after in there, but of course we'll pick who we think is going to win in the game. I've gone through the numbers. It looks like it's a pretty even game. Personally, but I feel like the Eagles' offensive line is going to be the difference maker, and I also think there'll be plenty of points in this Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to be a low-scoring variety.
Yeah, I would think so too, but it's hard with Super Bowls because sometimes they start off really, really slow because of all the nerves and stuff. But you would think Kansas City's been there quite a bit, with Mahomes, and the Eagles were just there 5 years ago. You got some different players, though, so there's always those nerves, and, you never know.
Indeed. So tomorrow night, Sean, hopefully Julie can make her return. If not, I'll be here as well. But whether it's myself or Julie, it'll be another great show. Who's going to be the guest?
So we have Jockey, the X-Man, Xavier Perez, first time coming on. He's always, he's been around for a little while and he's always been consistent rider. So we'll learn more about how he got started in his career.
Isn't that like a Marvel character, the X-Man?
X-Men, yes, but they always, because of Xavier Perez, they always call him X-Men.
X,
so
yes.
yeah. So
I get it. All right. So then, and then tomorrow I'll be back with Charles at 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 a.m. We're going to do Gulfstream Park, where I was on last Saturday for the Holy Bull. If you haven't been down there, of course, I would definitely recommend that you stop by to visit. It's a nice place, and got some shopping. So if you like to do a little bit of shopping or spend your money after you win some money at the races, you can head on over there and check that out. You just walk into the track. It's kind of cool. Like the bull ring is right there where they put the horses around. a lot of fun, and the folks there were, tremendously helpful. And then, of course, Tampa Bay, we got a lot of video that I got to cut up too, because we also have some exclusive footage of Jose Gomez on the night of the Eclipse. So I'll be getting to work on that. We got to put together the stuff for Tampa Bay Downs from our behind the scenes also at Gulfstream Park. And then I know Jamie's going to be heading off to the Risen Star Stakes at Fairgrounds. So we're going to have that. Then I'm going to go play golf with the Goof on the Roof, Fixed Offer, and then the Apple Blossom Stakes, and then Nashville. So keep an eye out, because we're going to have a lot of great content coming through in 2023. If you haven't done so already, folks, what ought people do, Sean?
Well, they should like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to YouTube. We've got over 3,000 subscribers now, so we're rolling on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, just hit subscribe, and always hit that like button while you're watching the shows as well. It all helps.
Absolutely.
While you were at Gulfstream, that Cairo Consort race, did you watch that on the track or did you watch that on the TV screen? Because that was amazing when she broke really slow.
Seven horse, actually.
Yeah.
So in that race, funny story, Sean. I was sitting there with Jamie and Willie, with their friends, the Poor Boos, and they were very nice people. That's the guy who owned the horse that Willie won the Breeders' Cup on. And they invited my daughter and I up where they were having like a buffet and all that stuff where the high rollers go. Certainly a company that I'm not usually in. But in any case, really wonderful people. So I was talking to Mr. Parbu about which horse I liked, and we were having a debate over who was going to get the lead. And because I run those simulations, I said the 7's going to get the lead. And then of course the 7 broke poorly, right? And then it came, and we were talking about which horse was going to win. So it was kind of cool that morning. So I had on some shorts when I was driving, because I don't like to wear pants when I drive. It's just not as comfortable for me, especially if it's a little warmer out. So I switched my pants from my shorts to my pants and left my money in my pocket. But I sat down, and the first race was the race before that. So which one do you like, Rich? Which one do you like? And I had all this pressure on me to pick a winner. Right? So I said, I like the 4 and the 1. And it came in 1-4. And they all bet on the 1 to win. So going forward, nobody listened to me anymore, right? Because they're like, oh, you got that one wrong. I had the winner that my top pick then won the next 4 races to close out the pick 4. But unfortunately, at that point, nobody listened to me. So we're having this debate over who was going to get the lead, the 7 or the 1 in that race. And the 7 broke, as you said, poorly. But I said I would bet the 7 to win. And when it broke poorly, that was the second race we were there. And I'm like, great. I give him the 1-4 in the first race. I give him the 7 in the second race. The horse stays in the gate. And then, boom, he came on and won. So we were actually up and got a really good view of it from up there. So, yeah, we were actually watching it on TV. But from on that 3rd floor, you could see the track really nicely.
Yeah, that was amazing, because you could see him at the top of the stretch. You knew he had horse, but you thought, okay, she's gonna die at some point. She's not gonna fully get there, and she did. And that's a race right there. You can tell. And they did the overcam on FanDuel TV and stuff. That a rider makes the difference, because Irad never ever panicked. He just left her.
Didn't hustle the horse up, right? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of jockeys, when they get that bad start, they hustle the horse and go, okay, well, this horse ain't gonna win anyway. Let's just see what we can do. Irad waited perfectly until the top of the stretch and then said, let's go. And wow.
Speaking of TVG, so Andy Biancone was there, right? Riding the horse. That horse was, giant. It was
I think the horse's name was Master, right?
I don't know what the name of that horse was. Yeah. But, you've seen the movie, the Marvel movie, what the hell the name of it? Where the guy snaps his fingers, Thanos?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That horse should be like the Thanos of horses. It was giant. And the thing is, when I would walk up towards that, I don't know if I had like a particular smell to me that the horse liked, or just looked at me and said, that guy, I want to go see what's up with that dude. Every time I come by that horse, he would turn and come at me and start trying to nibble on me and stuff. So I had to just get away from me. But that thing had to be, I don't know, it was just enormous. In any case, we'll have some of that stuff coming up. Keep an eye out for that. I got a lot of editing to do. That'll be coming soon. Hopefully we'll get all of that up and rolling. And by the way, Harrison, we're going to take you up on your offer. So if you could DM Sean with your contact details on Horse Race Today at Twitter or on Facebook, or you can email me directly at gtsrichb@gmail.com. I see absolutely no reason why we can't come out to Virginia and do the Arlington Million, the Secretariat, and the Beverly D, all races that used to be at Arlington. So it'll be right at home for me. We look forward to that.
There you go.
So we booked 2 more shows. I told you, Sean, it's going to be a big year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the last thing I got is hopefully Julie's feeling better. She's back tomorrow, and then hopefully, she's rescued horses too. She has a horse. It's kind of, up and down. So hopefully if the horse prevails, everything works out there as well. Julie does good things with the OTTBs and stuff like that. So hopefully all is well.
You just don't want me around anymore because I crack all these jokes at your expense.
No, I miss it. What am I going to do without football now? You got one more week here on Friday, and then, we're just going to be together on fill-in shows.
Well, that's okay, Sean. I got a lot of work to do with these videos, man, and having some difficulties with download. So if anybody is a Premiere Pro novice, which would be a level up for me, I'm having some difficulties downloading some stuff into like transitions and titles and so forth. So if anybody can help me out with that, I would so appreciate that.
The issue you're having, because you always say, I just YouTube it and I follow. But the problem with YouTube, I always say this, they always leave out that one key step, or they don't give you if you have this problem, let's do this. That's the problem with YouTube. The thing
with YouTube is that they don't start you from the beginning, right? They like jump you in 2 chapters into the story.
Right.
Like you have a base knowledge. And I kind of have a base knowledge, but I'm not really running into the base knowledge problem. I'm being told that it's a particular kind of file format. And I think it's not that file format for what it is I'm trying to upload, right? Because it talks about like moving pictures or something like that. So I think that's more like actual movies, video, not necessarily transitions and titles, which I think is a completely different kind of format. And I'm probably just trying to put him in the wrong place. And I've tried to explain myself to the people 1,000 times, but apparently another 1,000 might actually get it done.
And did Terry just say, "How about baseball"? Is that what that comment was?
Yeah, he's a Giant.
Oh boy,
he's look at how quickly he changes subject when those 49ers get bounced.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna have much success with the Giants neither. But no, we're not doing baseball. That's an everyday thing. That would be back to Moneyline Madman stuff.
Yeah, too much of a time for me as well, considering what we go through all the time anyway with horse racing, which is pretty much everyday thing for us. All right, Sean, that takes us wire to wire. Hopefully that you hit the subscribe button, like Sean said. If you like what you saw, thumbs up. Please tell your friends about us, and you'll see now at the bottom of the YouTube channel, there's actually some merchandise for horse racing today. So you can take a look at shirts like this. You can look as fantastic as Sean always does in his horse racing today gear. Believe me, he looks the best in it. I've seen him without it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and you know what I'll say about that too is, a lot of places they start charging you $4 or $5 to watch this, watch that. We don't want to go that route at all. So the easiest thing is buy a T-shirt and stuff like that, and help support us, helps us keep going, and we keep providing you all this other free stuff.
Yeah, we're going to continue to grow. So we'll get to where we want to be. And, with great folks like Harrison inviting us out to Virginia to go to Colonial Downs, more and more that's going to come. And the more content we can create, the bigger we'll get. And eventually somebody will say, hey, look, here's 50 cents for your time. All right, Sean, till we see you again tomorrow, Terry, Charles and I for Gulfstream Park. And tomorrow night with Sean and Julie, we hope that no matter what you do between here and there, it ends up in one place, and that place can only be
the winner circle.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us tonight. We greatly appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you again.